Guys, today we are harvesting the first spring crops from our main greenhouse here at the back of the homestead. And these were planted mid-March, so I'm harvesting some red Russian kale right now that was direct seeded, so planted mid-March. That is about 40 days to maturity, so you know, for those in this climate, you can figure that if you direct seed something in a greenhouse, unheated greenhouse, so you get about 40 days. And Mark is harvesting our first Salanova of the season, so that was planted with the paper pot transplanter at the same time, mid-March, so about 40 days to harvest. Today I'm going to take you guys through, we're going to go look at some of the plots around the farm and kind of see where we're at with crops. We're at this point we're kind of seeing the tail end of our overwintered crops, so things like the red Russian, spinach, and arugula, we're starting to see the tail end of that, and then coming into the succession of the spring seeded crops of those same varieties. So we're going to go and check the difference of those, what they look like, and kind of give you an idea on how succession planting overlaps from the overwintered stuff into the spring stuff. Just checking out our basil wall here, and it's doing pretty good. It was we haven't been heating this greenhouse this year, so that was something. If we would have kept the heat on, then the basil on the first growth would have been fine, but it's coming in with some nice new growth and it's looking good. I think we'll probably start getting some thin picks of this by maybe late next week. One thing Mark just did, which is awesome, is he put in a gutter underneath this so that when this irrigates, because the way this wall works is there's a drip, there's a line, a half-inch line up here, and then there's these half-gallon a minute drip emitters that go through here, and then the whole thing drips through it. It drips to the bottom, and before we had this gutter, we weren't really able to use this bed down here, just because like half of it got too soaked from the water dripping out of this. But so we put this gutter in, and then it directs down to the end, and we're gonna put like a catchment on the end, or actually no, what we're gonna do is put a big O pipe and then just run it and drain it out the back along the side of my property. And so that water will just, go somewhere else basically. We could save it and do something with it, but it's gonna be fairly insignificant. But this is cool because this wall is essentially giving us an extra 2 beds worth of production in this greenhouse. So, we have 6 beds in this, or sorry, 8 beds in this greenhouse. We effectively have 10 by using this wall. So, keep you guys up to date on how this thing works out, how the economics of it break down. We're tracking all the production on this wall. And I'll have a link for this wall below if you guys are curious. Here in this tunnel, this was our overwintered arugula crop. And Mark is just starting to turn this over. He's stirrup hoeing and pulling it out, and then I'm going to re-prep these beds for another crop. But I'm going to show you 2 successions of arugula today that are half a year apart or around there. And this stuff was planted August 23rd, and the stuff I'm going to show you in the other greenhouse was planted March 19th. And I would say for this season and this climate, I always like to contextualize everything because everything comes down to context, but it was more or less a perfect succession, having this summer crop just sit until over the winter, and then getting another cut from it a couple weeks ago was enough to get us started with arugula, and then we're just about to start harvesting the arugula in the other greenhouse that was planted on March 19th. So those 2 overlapped really well. We're right about the point too where we're gonna stop doing our post-harvest in the greenhouse. Right now we're at 35 Celsius, 90 Fahrenheit. It's getting a bit too hot, so we're actually gonna be, I ordered some new shade cloth, so we're gonna be rolling a 50% shade cloth over here, and then we're gonna be, so that we can keep doing our microgreens in there for a while longer, and then we're gonna move all the post-harvest activity back outside. So we're gonna bring one of those walk-in coolers out here. And because I actually took my garden that I built for Violet last year, which we got lots of space in the front now, but we've got a bunch of these extra concrete pavers, and we're going to just continue the floor here, all concrete pavers all along the packing area and everything. So We're going to be putting the bubbler back out here, putting the other spinner back out here, and bringing the other walk-in cooler out here, and that'll be happening next week. It's here at this backyard plot and just opened up these tunnels, and holy crap, it must be like 45 degrees Celsius in these things. It's insane. The humidity's still coming out. Anyways, I just wanted to show you guys kind of how things are doing. So Salanova here, all transplanted. I think this stuff was transplanted about 2 weeks ago. It's doing really good. We've got an empty bed there that we'll plant really soon. And then we've got this tunnel's all overwintered spinach that was done at the paper pot transplanter late October last year. And all this stuff will be on its like last cut. And then we've got some, I don't want to go in there because it's too hot, but I've got a bed of arugula in there seeded, and I think the red Russian on the other side. So when the spinach starts to get like this tall, like it's pretty much done, we'll do one more cut, and then we'll do that cut by hand so that we can cut it high. Because if you take the greens harvester in here and you harvest it low, you're just going to get this, you're going to get all stem, and so customers don't like that. So we'll come in and do a hand harvest with this, and then we'll turn these beds over. This greenhouse was all overwintered spinach for the winter, but now we've gotten many cuts off it. It's been cropped out, and these beds have been turned over. So these beds are ready to get into something else. We've got one bed of Salanova coming along there. And at this tunnel, we've got arugula good to go. So as we finished our overwintered arugula, now we're into our next crop. And arugula, like this variety I grow is called Voyager. It's my favorite wild variety. And in this time of year, we'll get a lot of cuts. Like we'll get at least 2, but sometimes 3 cuts from it. So it'll be quite prolific. So we'll be able, our farm is so small, right? So we'll be able to harvest maybe 2 of these beds at once, and then the other 2 the next week. And then we'll either be on to another succession of arugula, or we'll be on a regrowth of this. In a greenhouse with weather like this stuff will regenerate in 7 to 10 days. So it's very prolific. It's ideal time of year is this early spring season. Here's a bed of spinach that survived the winter with no tunnels on it. It's amazing how resilient this stuff is. We'll probably get one more cut off this, then turn it over. And field production starting here. We've got all these low tunnels planted out with other types of greens, pretty much most of the 3 that we've looked at. Lettuce, or 4 I should say, lettuce, arugula, spinach, red Russian, kale. And these beds will be on stream in a few weeks. And then, by about mid-May, which is usual for our farm, we're on full production, meaning that every single bed on the farm has already been planted at least once. And so at that point, we'll be into that high rotation phase where if we're going to plant somewhere else, we need to have something else coming out. And so that's when you want to have your succession planting on point. All right, well, that's it for our farm update for the day. That's where we're at with the season and our current production. I've got some bed prep to do. I'm going to be trying out a new BCS tool called the Precision Depth Roller. Some of you guys have, if you've been following my vlogs for a long time, I've mentioned this even a couple years ago. So I finally got it to run it. In fact, I've been actually using it on the farm. I just haven't put it in any videos yet. But if you tune into my next video, you'll see this thing in action. Talk to you guys later.